revelation. He promised the fire next time. And who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded? Who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded? Talk, you mocking pretender. I check your lyrics and I come for test you. Far too long, you're fooling the children, filling the head with much education. Doomsday reach, boy, plan your retreat, cause the children coming to take back the beat. The power of the word in the conscious styling. Giving the beat for a brand new morning. I say the power of the word in the rap so styling. Rocking the roots of the vampire system. Talk, you mocking pretender. Talk, you bloody deceiver. Talk, you serpent master. Talk, you friggin' oppressor. La da di da 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 da. La da di da da da. La da di da da da. And illusion shatter. Right down to the heart of the matter. Desire go bust and reality scatter. He promised the fire next time. He promised the fire next time. He promised the fire next time. And who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded? Who ain't dead, the badly wounded? Who ain't dead, badly wounded? Talk, you mocking pretender. Check your lyrics and I come to test you. Far too long, you're fooling the children, filling the head with much education. Doomsday reach, plan your retreat. The children coming to take up the street. The power of the word in the conscious styling. I say the power of the word in the rap so styling. Rocking the roots of the vampire system. Talk, you mocking pretender. Talk, you bloody deceiver. Talk, you serpent master. Talk, you friggin' oppressor. What is the matter? I can't seem to stop this ceaseless chatter. Chatter, only wrong in my head. Oh Lord, like they want me to dead. Everybody talking, nobody listening. Oh my God, what really happening? Chatter. What is the matter? Chatter, ceaseless chatter. Going right down to the heart of the matter. Everybody talking, nobody listening. Everybody talking, nobody listening. Nobody listening.
Greetings, name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. This is the Gil Ginger and Sister Jenny, Auntie Jenny. And if you want to get formal, this is Miss Jennifer Frederick and another edition of We Talk the Thing. People, I hope you like the thing, Talk, you mocking pretender. We have plenty pretenders out there, but before I start the thing, we have to do it right. Let me play the anthem, because at the end of the day, we have to love up the country. This is we country, Trinidad and Tobago. They brought our ancestors here unwillingly. We were tortured, beaten, mutilated, raped. We work for free. We build Europe, we build England, we build America, we build the Caribbean. We got nothing for it. And we're talking repatriation, we're talking about reparation, and people that have real problems with that. They like to say African people lazy, don't like to work. But we build the world. It wasn't for us, England could not invest in industrialization. So how come we would leave? When we were given emancipation, you know what we said? We simply said we're not staying to work for no free again under no apprenticeship system. We did it for how much? 400 years. We're not doing it, and we walk off the land, we run off the land, not because we were lazy, but they wanted us to continue to work for free, although they say we were freed from enslavement. Yes, I don't take that talk that we're lazy. We just didn't want to work for free no more. And they make sure they put laws in place to lock your vagrancy laws. If you come off the plantation, you was living all the time, you expect you'll have a house to live. So they put laws that if they see you wandering and walking around with no place to live, they put you in jail. So they always stack the system against us. So we had to love TNT because we come real far. We was on top, they bring it to the bottom of the ship and coming through the middle passage, and we have risen again. But some of us, I will talk about some of us later on. Some of us don't understand. They don't understand because the wound they get in their head from enslavement coming through generation, like it's still affecting them. Well, let me start this thing right. And our pledge.
I solemnly pledge to dedicate my life to the service of my God and my country. I will honor my parents, my teachers, my leaders, and my elders, and those in authority. I will be clean and honest in all my thoughts, my words, and my deeds. I will strive in everything I do to work together with my fellow men of every creed and race for the greater happiness of all and the honor and glory of my country.
So blessed afternoon again to all those who are locked on tuning to Louis Talk the Ting. This is my emancipation vibes because I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing a live on Friday. And Friday is Emancipation Day, so I choose to do today to bring a lot of African consciousness awareness while I still continue to talk about the political news and what is happening within our society. So let me start the thing now. So people, the Antigua Prime Minister, the situation with Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, where he was the Antigua Prime Minister, is saying delayed. Dr. Rowley said detained, so there seemed to be a play of words. However, what cannot be denied, something would have happened. And I want to say good afternoon to all those who are locked on from Facebook and those on YouTube. Thank you all so much for always coming to support. And we continue to make this thing right because at the end of the day, it's truth and they can't hide the truth, right? So this was yesterday in The Guardian. It says here, Antigua PM, info to flag Rowley did not originate in St. John's. Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown said yesterday that information which led immigration officers to make further inquiries of former TNT Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley did not originate in St. John's. He told the Caribbean Media Corporation, CMC, that immigration officials in Antigua and Barbuda treated Rowley with respect and acted on the information in the same way they would have had the notation been about any other traveler. On July the 21st, Dr. Rowley, who stepped down from active politics in March, said he was detained on July the 14th during a stopover in Antigua because his name had been placed on a watch list of the Paris-based International Criminal Police Organization. Dr. Rowley, a geologist, said he was on his way to Montserrat when he was stopped at VC Bird International Airport. Brown, who was attending the two-day fourth Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum taking place in Grenada, said Dr. Rowley was not detained in Antigua and Barbuda. Well, it was not a detention. My understanding is that there was certain information within our immigration portal that did not emanate from within Antigua that caused immigration officers to, let's say, do some further inquiries, Brown said. But in any event, he was not detained and he was treated with full respect as a former prime minister. But I do accept that there was certain information that was in the system, but it did not emanate within our shores. Dr. Rowley described the incident as a startling act of political persecution and accused state entities in Trinidad and Tobago of fabricating and executing a vicious defamation campaign. This is not just a mistake, it is a deliberate, calculated attempt to tarnish my name on an international stage. Dr. Rowley told a news conference, adding, it's a state-sponsored slander. So again, as I said, nobody is denying what Dr. Rowley has said. There's a use of the word detained and delayed. That is very subjective. What we know that his name was put on something, and that conversation was supported by the Prime Minister of Antigua Barbuda, and I think also by the Attorney General. So some list or some name or something would have happened, and it did not emanate from Antigua, St. John's, Antigua. And the Dr. Rowley said it would have been from here. I think it was, because if not from there, then it had to be from somewhere. He was the former Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. So it couldn't come from St. Vincent. It couldn't come from Barbados. It couldn't come from Jamaica. It had to come from Trinidad and Tobago. Because that is the way you get your name on a list, that there are some concerns about you from the country of your birth that you're living in, and the information is put there. So we know something happened, and we continue to watch this, and I'm seeing that the Prime Minister of this country is not really treating and dealing with it. And I didn't expect her to, because for the years that Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley has been in office as the Prime Minister, she has been very derogatory. People have been derogatory against him, and others would have been derogatory. And she was one who would have been a part of Vanilla Allen Toppin going into Parliament and fabricating that the most nasty, vicious, and evil thing you could do to a human being. That happened under the UNC was put on Hansard. So they would want to play this lightly. That is my opinion. But the truth will have to come out, and it continues to come out. So you all remember Mr. Vince Nelson, QC. He used to be, no, he's KSC now because the Queen has died and there's a king. So he's now KC, King's Council. You remember him and the whole Bacchanal and the allegations about Anna Ram Logan, who was the AG at the time, Angela Ramdeen, had to do with briefs and who get in from it. Allegations were swirling all around. And at the time, Faris Alwari was the AG, and there were certain matters that happened in terms of the testimony that Nelson gave and whatever, right? And he would have challenged his conviction, that is Nelson, and the Court of Appeal dismissed it. So this happened. I'm not going to read the whole thing, it's very lengthy, so I'm just going to read some of it. This was in the Express, July the 29th. It says, Court of Appeal dismisses Vincent Nelson's challenge to conviction. An appeal by British King's Counsel Vincent Nelson against his conviction and sentence for conspiracy to commit corruption and money laundering has been dismissed by the Court of Appeal. The ruling delivered yesterday by Justice Nolan Beru, James Aboud, and Godfrey Henderson affirmed an earlier decision by a single judge, Justice Mark Mohammed, who had refused to extend the time for Nelson to file his appeal. Nelson was convicted on June the 4th, 2019, after pleading guilty to conspiring with former Attorney General Anna Ram Logan SC and Attorney General and Attorney Gerald Ramdeen to corruptly give rewards to Ram Logan and to conspire to launder those funds. He was subsequently sentenced on March the 2nd, 2020, by then High Court Judge Malcolm Holdup, now an appeal court justice, to pay a fine of TT $2.25 million, or in default, face 3 years of hard labor. Nelson's application for leave to appeal was filed significantly out of time on October the 31st, 2023. The central tenet of Nelson's proposed appeal was that the circumstances leading to his plea agreement constituted an abuse of process and executive power, and a breach of a promise not to prosecute. He alleged that then Attorney General Faris Alwari, SC, had obtained a notarized statement from him through improper inducement. These allegations included promise of non-prosecution, non-disclosure of his statement, payment of outstanding fees, and an indemnity for any breach of the indemnity agreement. Nelson also claimed he was threatened with the withholding of his outstanding fees if he did not provide a statement. The background of the case traced back to 2010-15, when Nelson provided legal services to the then government of Trinidad and Tobago. So I'm going to leave it there because what has happened, if he was convicted, I'm not a lawyer, so I am just giving my opinion on these things. So if he was convicted, if he was convicted, let me find the area. He was subsequently sentenced on March the 2nd, 2020, by then High Court Justice Malcolm Holdup, who is now an appeal court justice, to pay a fine of $2.25 million, or in default, face 3 years hard labor, right? And that, I guess, is what he has been appealing. So he has been convicted. And if his conviction stemmed from the fact that he would have said, not me, because that is what the case said, an appeal by British King's Counsel Vincent Nelson against his conviction and sentence for conspiracy to commit corruption and money laundering has been dismissed by the Court of Appeal. So he would have appealed that conviction, and the conviction had to do with conspiracy to commit corruption and money laundering. And he would have put in his notarized statement that he called the names there. I am going to just read what it says. It's not Jennifer Frederick, please. Just like how I'm not on the board of Angostura. These are not my words. This is what it was. Following a change in government in 2015, Nelson struggled to receive payment for his work. In September 2017, he confided in his attorney, Roger Kawal Singh, about alleged kickbacks demanded by former AG Ram Logan and Ramdeel for his legal work. So, if there's corruption, he could not do the corruption by himself. If there was laundering, he couldn't launder by himself. And if there was kickbacks, somebody had to get the kickbacks. So if he was convicted for those things and he lost his appeal against that conviction, I wait to see. I wait to see what this AG is going to do. This AG, who seemed to be very vocal in speaking about white collar crime, and he was very vocal in pointing at the opposition and saying, you, and you. Sometimes they say when you point a finger, so you know, start to watch at it and point back at you. So these are interesting times. Let's see how this works out. So let me continue. Excuse me. So there was a media conference yesterday held by the opposition leader, the Honorable Penelope A. Beckles, leader of the opposition and member of parliament for Arima. At that press conference was the Honorable Stuart R. Young, SC, member of parliament for the Spain North, St. Anne's West. We also had the Honorable Brian Manning, member of parliament, San Fernando East. And we had Senator Faris Alwari, SC. I'm just reading how they have it. So at that press conference, we would have heard a couple of things coming out from first the member of parliament for Port of Spain North, St. Anne's West, who spoke on the energy sector and the fact that everything that the UNC is speaking about and whatever benefits they're getting or work that was done by him through all the negotiations he would have done in the People's National Movement, government, and Dr. Keith Christopher as Prime Minister. So he went back over that, and why they cannot deny it, he would have chronicled all the events of his negotiations and the travels with he and Dr. Rowley and all that. And he did that, and he always kept the population updated on what is happening in the energy sector. The energy sector to a lot of people was just something, we know we get money from that, but we weren't interested really to hear how it works. Minister Sciotto would have made that ministry come alive, and we were all up in it. We knew about Mentor, and we know about, I didn't know it has so much fields, to be honest, and all these different names and all that. And he spoke about the renegotiation of the gas prices. So we're not getting the normal Henry Hub thing. We are getting more money than that. That was due to renegotiations. And he spoke a number of other things that we are very well aware of because he has always articulated it. And there is videos, or there are videos to support what he has been saying, right? And then we had Brian Manning, MP for San Fernando. I can't remember if it's East or what, but San Fernando, and his area, of course, he was a minister in the Ministry of Finance, so he spoke on the state of the Heritage and Stabilization Funds and all that. To be honest, because I was doing so much things, I didn't hear it fully, but I would go back to it again and listen carefully. But I know he was speaking on the Heritage and Stabilization Funds and the state of our economy, and he would have prior knowledge of those things being in the Ministry of Finance. And then one of the most burning things happening right now is the CPEP workers, 10,500, along with contractors who were fired about probably 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken. And the PNM, through its lawyers, would have taken a matter of a contractor or some contractors or a contract. So court to treat with the matter. And then we had the whole thing coming out from Mr. Eddie, who I think was the CEO, who is saying, or is alleging, if my memory serves me right, that the minister may have forced him or pressured him or something to the effect into extending these contracts. And some other things he would have come out and said. And I want to tell you, Paris Alwari SC came with receipts. So I will say after him. And what I heard, when I finish read what he's saying here, because I have the article, I will give him a little 2 cents, because I am, and I can say it without fear of contradiction, I am a subject matter expert when it comes to labor. Not that I know everything, but I'm competent enough, having gone to study where you are taught that at CPNE Labor College, having experience as a shop steward, have experience at different levels of different sections and staff side chair and that, dealing with people's grievances. I know I have the ability to speak on labor issues, right? So this is Alwari says just one police report on CPEP under his watch. And this was in The Guardian 18 hours ago. Former Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Faris Alwari, is pushing back against claims by the government that the Community-Based Environmental Protection and Enhancement Program, CPEP, was being used to finance criminal activity. Alwari dismissed suggestions that CPEP and the Unemployment Relief Program functioned as criminal empires under the People's National Movement, PNM, as implied by Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Sessa. He noted that during the People's Partnership Administration from 2010 to 2015, CPEP operated with even larger budgets, citing a 726 million allocation between 2014 and 15, compared to 358 million under the PNM. However, he did not clarify the time frame for the PNM figure. On the issue of criminal links, Alwari said that during his time as the line minister, He received just one report from the TTPS about CPEP tied to the beneficial ownership law introduced by the PNM to identify the true owners of companies. I received one report from the police as to a questionable issue coming from beneficial ownership law, which I introduced, and that was referred quickly for action. He stressed that there were no other police reports during his tenure and stood by the integrity of CPEP procurement process. Turning to the ongoing state of emergency SOE, which was extended with opposition support on Monday, Alwari hinted that a controversial life support scandal may have influenced the decision to declare the SOE, not just rising crime. He pointed to the relocation of former life support program to coordinator Rajiv Ali from the maximum security prison to an army base. At the top cup, as the top cup revealed a plot to destabilize the country carried out by kingpins behind the prison wall. He further referenced a High Court judge ruling which held the former board of the sport company of TNT responsible for 34 million paid to EB Interact Limited on advice of Ministry of Sport. The minister was then Annie Roberts. He's still in the government and now a government minister again. Alwari added that the former Minister of Finance, Com Edward, had been transparent about CPET's operation and reiterated the opposition call for all corners or all concerns about criminal activities to be properly investigated. Meanwhile, Alwari also rejected what he called a manufactured narrative of corruption, claiming it was being driven by former Attorney General Anand Ramlogan SC, whom he accused of having a personal vendetta due to matters Alwari referred to the police during his tenure. Let me state plainly that I, certainly as the last minister that served with responsibility for CPEP, never spoke to the renewal of NMAS contract. I did, together with the Minister of Finance, Vishnu Dan Paul, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Suzette Lichi, and the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, Mr. Peter Mitchell, speak to the funding for 12 CPEP contractors. There was something also that he would have said in that meeting, and it had to do with the fact that somebody had told me that, but I heard him say that now, that CPEP is who pays the CPEP workers. CPEP contractors do not pay the CPEP workers. So I go right back to where I had said before. If the UNC has issues with the contracts that the contractors have, some extension or something to that effect, and the CPEP workers, although they work for a contractor who oversees with the different checks and balances, is CPEP paying the workers to work, then why you needed to fire the CPEP workers who were being paid not by the contracts that the contractors get, but by CPEP? Why did you all fire 10,000 workers? Put them instantly on the breadline. We're talking about mothers, daughters, sisters, single mothers, single fathers, mother, father in a home with the children who have whatever challenges. Some of them have children who may be disadvantaged mentally and different ways. Some of them have the books to buy, school books, children now starting schools, children in school already, children going to study, all that. They have rent to pay, they have furniture to pay for, they have electricity to pay for, they have the utilities to pay for, they have food to buy, all that. And they are workers who are not in a salary range as some persons in the public service. They are the lowest scale. When you take that away from them and so much at one time and you pull them out of the system, what you would have done, you created a crash of the economy, in my opinion, because those are the people who keep that ground economy going in terms of going to the market, the supermarket, the shop, the grocery, the in the stores and all that. They are the consumers, they buy. So you take that away now, and only to hear, I'm hearing that the CPEP company is who pays the CPEP workers. And I'm saying, as a labor person, if that is the case, CPEP workers have a case, because CPEP company has to tell the CPEP workers why they were fired. Is it that they weren't doing the work that they were given to do? Is it they was coming late? Is it that they wasn't coming to work? There must be a reason why you're firing a worker. So you fire the contractors because you say the contracts were not legal. Okay, you stated a case for them, whether true or not true. But the CPEP workers, what is the reason you fire CPEP workers? So I would tell CPEP workers, get somebody who's trained in industrial relations, get some advice, and see if this matter to me should be taken to a union, and a union on behalf of those workers get that matter in the industrial court. That is unfair dismissal. It could be even cited as victimization, cruel and unjust, and all the things that goes with that. In terms of suing and all that, that's a different story. That is civil court and all that. I'm speaking about the labor aspect. In terms of firing workers on the spot with no recourse, with no reason, and even if they give the reason, it makes no sense because they are not contractors, they are just workers, right? So I would say that on it. And also, at that same meeting, before I continue to what the Prime Minister would have called the CPEP workers, I think it's today or yesterday. So before that, I want you to listen to this. This also came out of the meeting, the press conference. And the UNC is showing about this conversation about Building 13 and the fact that it's Stuart Young and the PNM who created this situation. That is what I'm gathering from it. This situation that now we're in a SOE because of giving leeway to some criminal elements who were in Building 13 and allowing them to do A, B, C, D, and what kind of, right? And then we are hearing that there was some big TV found and all that, and then the Prison Officer Association came out and said, those things are under the purview of the Commissioner of Prison, and even sometimes if they may complain about certain things, it is under the authority of the Prison Commissioner. So anything that happens in the prison, and the prison has to be run, day-to-day run and all that, is not a government minister. The government minister could bring policies from the cabinet to be implemented in the prison, but who has to do that, who has the overall responsibility, is the Commissioner of Prisons. So listen to what MP Stuart Young had to say, former.
The other matter that I've come here today to deal with was raised by the Prime Minister in yesterday's debate, and that's Building 13. The concept for Building 13 at the time was conceptualized under the previous administration with me as the Minister of National Security, but sitting down with the then Commissioner of Police, Griffith, the then Chief of Defence Staff, who's still the Chief of Defence Staff, the head of the SSA, and the Commissioner of Prisons. And at the time, the same thing you're hearing the government complain of today, with these nefarious leaders, and that they were meeting together in the yards, etc. There was a need to separate them. And Building 13 was identified because it was empty, it was sterilized, all that needed to be put in was put in. Because one must always understand, it is the prison service in charge of the prisons. A minister can give policy direction. A minister can ask for things to be done. So can a commissioner of police. But it is up to the prison service to implement. Building 13 was introduced. It had a concept of utilizing defense force personnel on rotation, masked, as well as police on rotation, masked. So at no point in time could the prisoners know who they were, and they were rotated so no relationships could be formed, and a prison officer, because prisons are under the control of the prison officers. And it worked. Unfortunately, as I said, all a government can do is introduce policy. And again, within a matter of a week or 2 weeks of utilizing it, the government received pre-action protocol letters from those who were incarcerated in Building 13, saying that their rights were being infringed and there was solitary confinement, which went nowhere. Because at the time, It was properly carried out. So it is very, very fictitious for the Prime Minister to come and say what she did yesterday. But I am sure that if you go to the Commissioner of Police at the time, he will tell you much more on what it was, the concept of Building 13, and how successful it was, until, unfortunately, those in charge of the prisons decided to do otherwise.
So you have it there about Building 13. So let me just get back to CPEP again. The Honorable Prime Minister Kamala Prasad says, so this is what she had to say about CPEP and CPEP workers.
Because in every government department, we have a lot of things to be done. There are many ministries. You have industries, is something we can partner. You talked about the CPEP. Maybe tonight is not the time for that full disclosure, but I can say I am very much against the whole structuring of the CPEP, the URP, and the reforestation. Many of you, in my constituency and elsewhere, you were just hoping to replace. So when we vote on the PNL, you want 5 gang and 10 gang, and look at what you want, gangs. You really want gangs? I mean, seriously? Do we want gangs? We did name they gave to this thing, gangs. So it is something the cabinet, we've already had a couple of meetings to look at that whole program. And tonight when you talk about the trade schools, the apprenticeship thing struck my brain a few days ago. Let's look at something like that. Let's look at something where people can come, apprentice, or go to the MIC, the YTEP, you mentioned all those programs for skills training. We give them a stipend and let them learn something so they can transition out. How long you want to be cutting grass for? You know, that's what those programs said. We have become a nation of grass cutters under the PNM. So the CPEP cutting grass, no, this is not a joke. The CPEP cutting grass, the URP cutting grass, reforestation cutting grass where you're supposed to be planting trees. They didn't plant any. The regional corporations cutting grass, HGCs cutting grass, NGCs cutting grass. So all the people in our country, grass cutters, we cannot. So look, I'm really thinking, and I'm telling you, some of you are our old supporters, they vex with me and they vex with us because they feel we should just replace the CPEP and the URD. That will take us nowhere. They have become criminalized. If you put yourselves there, you say, okay, you want 1 gang and you want 2 or how many, and you have the gang. All it takes is for the criminal to come to you and say, I know where you're living, I know your wife, I know your son. You see that 10 names you have on the gang? You write down these 5, and you will take the next 5. So you have 5 ghosts. Because of the fear, the criminals are creating this fear. I will explain it, but maybe it's the first time I'm giving my full, deeper thinking on it. I know people are worried about it, but that is not the way for us to take our young people to send you out there. They will threaten the 4 men on each of the programs. 5 for you and 5 for me, boss. Take it or leave it. What happens? So you have 5 ghosts and the criminal man collecting the money. That's what is happening. That's what's happening. So it's not that we are vicious. It is not that we are racist. This is for everybody. Everyone, whether whichever you are from, which constituency, I cannot in good conscience continue that program. We have to restructure it. We have to restructure it.
It is so unfortunate that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago would reduce the CPEP workers and workers at URP and those with HGC and all that, and call them grass cutters. Because when the group had went down in front, the waterfront, and said they come to support Kamala, they wasn't calling them grass cutters. They were supporters. When they were going around to different places with people and things, CPEP, who support them too and all that, they wasn't called grass cutters. When they're looking for their votes, They weren't called grass cutters. But again, it shows the disrespect for certain people who are under different socioeconomic level in our society. And I want to tell all the listening today, that's the same kind of attitude some heads of department in the public service. And Kamala Prasad Visasa is an employer, so she's part of the service, have towards people in low ranges. They look down on the cleaners, but if the cleaners ain't come and clean the toilet in the ministry or whatever building that they in, don't matter if you're a senior officer, you're a minister, you're whatever, you can't use them toilet and then. If the maid and make the juice and bring the water and bring the this and put aside this and fix that, they ain't getting water. They'll sit down in the meeting and sit down there looking what to do. If the maid has come and rest down the water and take this and bring the coffee and make that, the maid important. The CPAP workers who should, that's corn to me putting on them. The grass at the side of the road, when they want this cut, they want that cut. These same CPAP workers, then they go up to one of those islands when there was some kind of disaster or something to work. There was grass cutters then. When they use them to supplement other workers and they cutting not only grass, they cleaning and beautifying the area. There's grass cutters. You must come up with service as a prime minister of this country in your lovely, palatial palace, pink palace. I sure you have people who just cut your grass. Because you ain't gonna want your grass grow high over your house, your beautiful house. So you just scorn them. And all who have money and ain't have money or just the fact you like to keep your yard clean, you just have to get a fellow or a man or whoever with a waka to come to clean it because you ain't doing it yourself. And if the waka man ain't come or the waka woman ain't come, your yard will be overgrown with gas. That's so important with grass. That's so important it is. Or let's look down on the garbage man. I just call them sanitation engineer because let me tell you something. In America, people don't scorn garbage men. Don't call them garbage men. They are sanitation engineers. Because if them ain't go and pick up the garbage it have on the road, in the wherever it put out, you can't walk nowhere in this country. So if CPAP cutting grass and they ain't cutting the grass, and all they scorn the garbage man, you scorn the cleaners, you scorn the this, you scorn, everything will fall apart. Or they don't look down. Or let us look down and cooks too. You know much time I go meet her and I say, what's she doing here? She's just a cook. But if the cooking, cook in the hospitals, the cooking, cook in the restaurant, the cooking, cook in the hotel, you can't eat. And in the hospital, if the cooking cook, they can't get the patient the medicine to take, the patient can't get better. Everybody works to hold it together. Those scorn and look down on nobody. Because when people say, oh, they come from cane, cutter and rice picker and rice grow and all that, or they doesn't like how it does sound when people say. So don't degrade and reduce people to know that they just cut grass all over. And you mentioned about youth, you mentioned about they should be doing something else and stipend and all the programs and all that. Madam, all they closed down all the youth camps. So they have a history, the UNC are closing down the youth camp where the young people could go and learn, do a trade, get a stipend, get a mile, get a my part, get a CCC, a white tepita. All those programs are already there. So talking about like if it's something new you're going to introduce, that's very disingenuous in my opinion, because those programs are there. Where are the programs today? Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs has been reverted again from it was Ministry of Youth Development and National Services. All the programs in that ministry, all they abandoned it. That was to help young people. So some of them don't have to go and look for stipend. But all they just want to play savior, in my opinion. Take it away from people, take it away, and then come back with something and have people begging like the man and then kneel long in the road and holler, give me money now, pay me money now. That's what I like to see. People reach to that stage and they have to beg only because I don't know if it's feeling some kind of inferiority complex and all to have people behaving like that and all the insecurity because they're in office now. I just asking a question, or they feel like it's trample on people. Walk around Trinidad now. Let your ministers and them, you see like all these chief secretary come out, he can't change any clothes in the road, come out and walk the road. I ain't said to change your clothes in the road. Come out and walk the road and see the condition of this place since the CPEP workers not there. And come back and call them grass cutters. Or they too disingenuous and all us watch down at people and all us want to know why the society as it is, because some of us look down and the same people who have to keep this place going, because if you remove the cleaner, the cook, the ambulance driver, the orderly, the CPEP worker, the man who does clean the drain, the man who does pick up the garbage, all of them with all the high and mighty work, stepping on people with all the high issues, all their pissed, going on the office, no way, or able to operate, no way, or they need them. Don't look down on the workers. But this is push the Honorable Prime Minister talk about his grass cutters. There wasn't grass cutters then. Watch this.
Several government and state agencies are actively involved in the cleanup operations in South Trinidad, where hundreds of homes were affected by flooding earlier this week. In response to an urgent question in the Parliament on Friday, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Faris Al-Rawi, said both during and post-flooding, there has been coordination by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Defense Force, the Fire Service, the Ministry of Social Development, the Ministry of Public Utilities, and the Ministry of Education. He noted that management of flooding issues is something which concerns the government on an ongoing basis and also involves ensuring regulatory compliance with the municipal corporation laws and planning laws of the country.
Supplies in hampers, food hampers, drinking water, mattresses, blankets, etc. We have mobilized 600 CPEP workers every day who are engaged on the field. Approximately 7,200 man-hours have been deployed already, which will continue in operation.
That's important, CPEP workers is. When nobody wanted to do it all day, when Carnival finish, by Ash Wednesday morning early, Port of Spain clean. I could talk about Port of Spain because Port of Spain here, and Port of Spain clean. Any show going on the savannah, they right there waiting as the show finish, and even while the show going on, they cleaning and picking up. All they want to be degrading them to call them grass cutter. They cleaning the place. CPEP people has work hard. Them, in my opinion, like them overtake URP. CPEP okay, see them all over. Early in the morning, they're cleaning canal, they cleaning drain, party all over. Next morning when they come out, the place clean like a whistle. CPEP workers, but only fire 10,000 and plus CPEP workers, along with forestry workers, talking about the implant, forestry workers implant no tree and all kind of thing. Excuse me, we can't talk about that, what the case is, but the point is, excuse me, if you're just firing people, you have to have a reason for it and only find the people who are the lowest scale in salaries. Why are they doing them kind of thing? I have a woman, I wouldn't put it up because she cussing and I feel the thing. She's saying that basically the UNC is a curse. Like basically they fool people. They fool people. That's what the woman's saying basically. It's a curse. And it's some of the same CPEP workers, URP workers, store workers on the lower rung who they fool. Let me continue. So, Toyota is calling for clarity with regards to wage increase. And this is in the Guardian 19 hours ago. Unions call for clarity after the PM links wage increase to faith in God. The president of one trade union says the entire public sector is looking forward to getting a fair and just settlement. The comment from Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association tutor President Martin Lumpkin came after Prime Minister Kamala Setta said on Monday that she was placing her faith in God to help to finance a proposed 10% wage increase for public servants. Her remarks have sparked mixed reactions amongst labor leaders, with some cautiously optimistic, while others are calling for concrete action and transparency. Speaking outside of Parliament before the sitting, the Prime Minister told Guardian Media, "We may not have all the money now, but I have faith. With God's help, we will find a way to pay the 10% increase to our hardworking public servants." Already, Twitter is cautioning the need for responsible negotiations. I want to stick up in right for a minute. They need to clarify this thing in truth, because you are told is the starting point of the negotiation is 10%. We did not hear that you're getting 10%. Because if you're getting 10%, then there's no starting point. It is just 10%. But if they're still talking about negotiation, it means to say that is an offer on the table, and you have to go and negotiate for that offer. So you ain't get no offer. But again, they're playing with words. And some union leaders, like the PSA, are very disingenuous and can't come out and speak to members in the public service with any clarity on anything. And in the case, again, of the PSA, is our matter out the special tribunal? And if it is out the special tribunal, it is for the period 14, 15, and 16. If that is out the special tribunal, why haven't we heard that the PSA is looking to get a date to go in front of the CPO to sit down to start back the negotiation for the period 14, 15, and 16? You see our way back? When that is settled, whenever it is settled, then we have the period 17, 18, 19. And whenever that is settled, then we have the period 20, 21, and 22. Whenever that is settled, we have 23, 24, and 25. And I keep asking again, if the starting point of negotiation is 10%, and it is for the period 2014, 15, 16, when you start to negotiate for the period 17, 18, 19, you can't start at 10% again, because inflation would have gone up. So you have to start at a higher figure. And then when you finish that negotiated, when you start for now 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, you can't start at the same point that you start for 17, 18, 19. It had to still go higher. And whenever you finish that, it had to go even higher. And that is not realistic. And that is what economists have been saying. And everybody take it for a joke. They say, well, let me just say everybody. People went and voted for the UNC because PSA tell them when they vote for the UNC, they just leave out when they're talking sometime. Now and then we'll say the starting point is 10%, but sometimes they just say 10% and everybody gone, we will get 10%. So let me continue from what Mr. Lumpkin, President Lumpkin is saying. Give me a minute here. The whole thing just went right. Speaking outside, right. Twitter takes note of the submission by the Honorable Prime Minister as it relates to the unsettled salary negotiation, Lumpkin stated in a telephone interview yesterday. We maintain that the MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, signed in April 2025 was and still is in the best interest of our members. Careful consideration was given to prevailing local and international economic situation, including geopolitical influences. Twitter is still mindful of the economic situation which our nation continues to face. We look forward to the entire public sector getting a fair and just settlement, he said. And what he's talking about, you remember, the People's National Movement offered 5% for the period 2020, 21, 22. And the Twitter signed on it. So there is a memorandum of agreement, not a memorandum of understanding, but there is an agreement to pay 5% to Twitter for the period 2020, 21, and 22, because a 3-year period. So if this government is saying they don't have the money to pay, I can see Twitter taking the government to court. Because the same way the UNC settled with the unions in 2015, a 14% increase, signed off on it, although they know the government, the country didn't have no money because we were in a recession. And when the PNM government came into office, they didn't renege on that 14% increase that was signed off by a memorandum of agreement. They paid it. So I think it is fair that this government also haven't met a 5% increase for the unions who sign on it, that they honor that increase and pay the unions their money. In the case of PSA, we have not negotiated for anything, so we are not a part of that. So let me continue. I hope people understand. Right. Oral Sanders, former General Secretary of the Public Services Association, who recently contested the union's leadership election, said the Prime Minister's comments are concerning and risk appearing politically symbolic rather than fiscally strategic. When a Prime Minister says she's trusting in God to deliver salaries, I feel nervous, Sanders said. Faith is important, but budget aren't based on belief. They are based on math. Sanders accused politicians of levering labor expectations during election cycles, saying his defeated slate refused to make false promises. We were honest with workers. They have been living on overdraft, watching their spending while inflation eats away their purchasing power. That 10% isn't a gift, it's a recovery. Another former PSA executive, Nixon Kalinda, was equally critical, stressing that no formal offer had been tabled to match the public's claim. Let's not mislead people. The government never offered 10%. That was PSA's proposal, Kalinda said. Until the chief personnel officer sits down with the PSA and tables an official offer, this is just political chatter. Joanne O'Gara, Secretary General of the Communication Workers Union, CW, declined to weigh in on the matter. So people, I didn't read this before. And you see? So let me continue. Well, you know, the UNC is busy going about the country with stand your ground consultation. And to me, my opinion, it looks more like UNC meetings. UNC people who supporting this as they sit in the conference. That is just the vibes I'm getting. So I've always said, me personally, while I understand the trauma and hurt families are going through because of crime, I will never diminish that in any way. I know there's a crime issue. I will not diminish that. I know that people are frightened, they are wary, they're scared. I understand all that. And I'm still saying at the end of the day, while saying that, we have to be careful that laws that we introduce don't come and create problems in the long run. It may seem as a good quick fix, and that fix may end up costing more than the candle. You don't know, say the bath water or something so costs more than the funeral costs more. The candle costs more than the funeral. I hope that we don't end up in a situation like this. I hope that this government will carefully consider that stand your ground law, especially when I hear what members of the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago are saying. Listen to what Minister Wayne Sturge, who is the Minister of Defense, I think it is saying at one of the consultation, I think in his constituency of Sandy Grande. Listen carefully.
So if the chief in property and in a way you might want to ask if they could shoot them while they were in a way with a gun. Now all of this is common sense. If he had a gun during the invasion and he's leaving with the gun, it's always possible he can change his mind and say, boy, you know what? I feel that man can identify me. Let me turn around and finish him off. So the fact that he's running away, you know, they always say if you are running away, you can't shoot. No. Circumstances, he's running away, armed with a gun, you can shoot him in the back. and explain yourself after. That's the reality. If he's running away without a gun, that's a different thing. Right? If he's down on the ground and you hit him too and he ain't moving, you can't finish it yet. The common sense thing is, you save it because the partner might come back to help him. Right? So it's all about justification. The second thing I do not like about the bill is the part where they say you have to establish that you acted in self-defense. I don't like that for two reasons.
Right. I hope you all heard what the Minister of Justice said. This minister is a criminal lawyer. And the thing that he's saying he don't like, I think, is he's speaking about what he don't like. I think that's from the home invasion laws you already have. But something he said is very interesting. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I am just trying to get clarity. He said something to the effect that if somebody on a property and they're running away, you could shoot them in the back. Because you don't know if they might change their mind and turn around and say, well, you could identify me. So he, and they have a gun, right? He said, but if they don't have a gun? So I'm saying this. Somebody enters to your property and in whatever it is, they start to run because you come with your gun, whatever it is, and they're running away from you, the back too. Excuse me. Your judgment is to say, I feel it going and turn around, you know. I feel it going and turn around to shoot me. So let me shoot them in the back so he turn around. That's what you're supposed to do. Or, as the honorable minister said, if he has a gun, you know, you could shoot him in his back. Suppose you think you have a gun is really cell phone and you shoot him or her or whoever in the back and they're dead. What is your justification or that you thought it was a gun, but the person gets shot in the back? So when they back towards you and they're running, they are no longer a threat to you. You can preempt in your mind that let me shoot him or shoot she in she back because she might turn around. I don't know how law does thing. I don't know law does, you know, preempt what's going to happen before it happens. And say it's because you think that was going to happen why you do this. I don't know, that's how it does go. And what again they feel that tell you, the little part that I say kind of easy, is that at the end of the day, the police still has to determine whether or not it was justified. Look, recently we had, give me a minute. Let me just plug in this here. Right. A man killed his, I don't know if it's wife, girlfriend, family member, or what. Shoot her in her chest. She subsequently died. He said he thought it was an intruder. He's charged for murder now. So people could use this stand your ground where they're making you feel that you just have to feel. It's just a feeling. Your feeling could be based on subjectivity and not objectivity. You could just feel that somebody going to do me something, running away from you because you scared them of your property. They're running, going from you. And you shoot them in the back and kill them to say, well, before they had to turn around. Let me deep. Somebody explain this to me, please. And I am very disturbed that the honorable minister, all, in my opinion, because they want to say they made their promises and they keep it. Something as serious as this, mixed messages are being sent because people, you all will have people confused because people know if somebody back is towards you running from you, they no longer present a threat. You can preempt a threat that they might present in the future. I don't know, that is how things does work. So you telling people just shoot them in the back. And if you shoot them and they're on the ground and you get them too, that part I hear too good. I don't know if he's saying, well, make sure you keep them down. I don't know if that is what he's saying, but they're making this thing seem as if it's cut and dry. Somebody come on your property, yes, person have no right being on your property. They have no right breaking into your house to come to terrorize you and your family, to rob, to rape. They have no right to do that. They have no right to come into your space with no gun. And I understand that. I understand you defending yourself in the face of that. And shooting the person, whatever. I understand that. But you cannot tell me if that person running, skating out there, getting out there, that you used to shoot the person in the back. Why you can't shoot them in the foot or something, destabilize them or debilitate them or whatever the case may be, so that the police could come and think, or you'll be able to say, you shoot the person in the foot, whatever, so you're looking for a person with a gunshot wound or something. You're telling people to shoot them in the back. And I asking, is that a murder? I asking a question. And still, a police or the police still have to come on the scene and hear your story and do the investigation to justify whether or not what you're saying is justified. Why they're not telling them that? And if the police is not satisfied with the story, it's going to court, and a judge will determine, just like the judge determined with the man who said he thought was an intruder and he shoot the woman in the chest. Today he has to face murder because his story didn't add up. What we really doing, people? Or be careful and not get excited and hype up. I hear traveling in a car with a woman in the front seat, and she's saying she can't wait to get she gun. She has some people she wants to shoot. Okay. Or they went and vote for the UNC April 28th because they tell all you yellow is the code, and when UNC when everybody win. They make 3 months, in 2 months' time, they send home almost 20,000 workers. They start to call people all kind of things. They start to cut here, shut down. It wasn't even 2 months. They told all you, code is yellow when UNC when everybody wins, and all they take that and went and buy stock, lock and barrel. Now people cussing, people quarreling, people saying this, saying all that. Don't get caught up in this emotional seesaw and go and give permission for this reckless, in my opinion, UNC, based on the history, to implement no stand your ground law, and you feel you get a gun and you're bad. Your children could take that gun and turn around and use it on you because they get vexed. No, you put the gun and you're sleeping in your blasted bed and they come over you and your husband and whoever and shoot all you. Your children could take that gun and carry it to school. Next thing we have mass shooting in schools. You could shoot your family member by accident thinking it's some intruder. In the night, you can't see good. You're looking for your glasses. You can't find your glasses. You hear the noise. You pull your gun and start to shoot. And when the bullet's done and the dust clear and the smoke clear, you see your wife, your daughter, your son-in-law lying down on the ground. Oh, yeah. Okay. Take warning. Let me continue. So I'll say, let me look at the stand your ground laws. This is from, I Googled it and I found it. It says here, stand your ground laws do not advocate for shooting someone in the back. These laws essentially remove the duty to retreat before using deadly force in self-defense, but they still require a reasonable belief that deadly force is necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm. Shooting someone in the back, unless under very specific and rare circumstances, would likely not be considered justifiable under these laws. Stand your ground and self-defense. Stand your ground laws, also known as no duty to retreat laws, allows individuals to use deadly force in self-defense when they reasonably believe it's necessary to prevent imminent death or great bodily harm. The crucial element is the reasonable belief that the use of deadly force is necessary. This is assessed from the perspective of a reasonable person in the same situation. Stand your ground laws do not give people a free pass to use lethal force indiscriminately. They still require a legitimate threat of death or serious bodily harm. Shooting someone in the back is generally not considered justifiable self-defense unless there are very specific circumstances, such as persons turning to attack immediately after fleeing. This typical scenario involves a direct imminent threat. The specific details of the situation, including the actions of both the attacker and the person defending themselves, are critical in determining whether the use of deadly force was justified. A person might be justified in shooting someone in the back if that person, after initially attacking, turns to continue the attack while fleeing. If a person using deadly force is engaged in criminal activity at the same time, if a person using deadly force is engaged in criminal activity at the time, the use of force may be justified under stand your ground laws, even if they are being attacked. People know what all they're doing. So let me continue. So Friday is Emancipation Day, African Emancipation Day. We are still, the United Nations has declared another 10 years for the peoples of African descent. And so I'm just going to bring you some stuff here, some historical stuff and some clippings and stuff about emancipation. So this is from Nales. It said Emancipation Day is a major national festival in Trinidad and Tobago. The observance was declared a national holiday in 1985 and is celebrated on the 1st of August each year. This date marks the day that enslaved Africans throughout the British Empire were finally liberated from the bondage of slavery. I call it enslavement. After slavery ended in 1838, emancipation was celebrated with much ceremony each year. Africans stayed away from work and engaged in celebrations, including processions, church services, fetes, and drumming and dancing. Trinidad and Tobago made history as the first country in the world to proclaim a national holiday to commemorate the end of African enslavement. In the 1970s, the Black Power movement led to a resurgence of celebrations of emancipation. The increased popularity of these events intensified advocacy by groups such as National Joint Action Committee and Traditional National African Association, which led to calls for a national holiday. In 1985, then Prime Minister George Chambers made a historic decision to memorialize the liberation of enslaved Africans with a public holiday. The celebrations of Emancipation Day has grown tremendously, so much so that Trinidad and Tobago is now known as the emancipation capital of the world. Thousands of Trinbagonians and a significant number of external visitors from around the world come to Trinidad and Tobago to what is recognized as one of the world's foremost African festivals. The build-up to the 1st of August includes weeks of activities by various community-based and non-governmental organizations, libraries, cultural organizations, corporate and government entities. These can include exhibitions, panel discussions, and lectures, often featuring well-known Pan-African scholars, cultural performances, music, song, and dance. Many organizations that host African fashion shows depicting not only African-based dresses, but local, custom-based on Caribbean and local African culture. The grand final of Emancipation Day begins with Cambule, a large procession through the streets of Port of Spain. This mass procession is highly theatrical, featuring African drumming, steel pan, moko jambi. The whole thing just all the whole thing just run up just now. Moko jambi and dance groups. The procession leads into the large Emancipation Village for a day of performance. International artists who have performed at Emancipation celebration include the National Senegalese Ballet, Lauren Castle, Jabu Kaneli. The Emancipation Village usually features an art exhibition and a bustling marketplace where shoppers can buy African clothing, painting, and craft from African merchants from Tanzania, Nigeria, North America, Ghana, and other Caribbean islands. The festivities reach a crescendo with a flambeau procession at sunset. This symbolic march honors the rebellion of the African ancestors against slavery. Emancipation Day is a time of national recognition for the accomplishment of the descendants of former enslaved Africans who are now leaders in government, business, education, science, sports, art, music, and commerce around the globe. The holiday is an opportunity for the community to reflect on its achievement and the significance of emancipation in the daily life of Trinbagonians. The Heritage Library Division and public libraries have a vast array of resources. For more information on Emancipation Day and its celebrations in Trinidad and Tobago, see NALIS. So you can go to NALIS and, of course, go visit the Emancipation Village right now. That is at the Savannah. Go give your support to our craft, our history, our music, and just enjoy the celebration. So let me just bring you some videos that I will have sourced. I'm going to play you here 5 top Black warriors.
Malcolm X once said that the most disrespected person was the black woman, and the most unprotected person was again the black woman. In some cases, many would agree that this is indeed still a reality today. Looking back through history, at least when I was growing up and learning about history, strong black women who stormed the battlefield wasn't something I'd ever been shown in my curriculum. To be completely honest, I'm pretty sure it's not shown in the curriculum in schools now. Other than Rosa Parks, it almost seems like history doesn't want to acknowledge some of the women I'm about to talk about, which is a damn shame because once I started digging into the history of black females beyond what I was taught, I found some pretty fascinating characters. So let's dive in. Yaa Asantewaa. Yaa Asantewaa was the queen mother of the Edwesu tribe of the Ashanti, in what is now modern-day Ghana. She was said to have been an exceptionally brave warrior, who in March 1900 constructed and led an army of thousands against the British colonial forces who occupied Ghana at the time. Yaa Asantewaa also led her army to prevent the British efforts to subjugate their people and to stop them from stealing the golden stool, which was the Asante nation's spiritual symbol of unity and sovereignty. Yaa Asantewaa was responsible for mobilizing the Asante troops, and for 3 months, she was able to lay siege to the British fort of Kumasi. The colonizers at Fort Kumasi would have to summon for reinforcements in the form of several thousand troops and artillery to break up the siege. It would result in the exiling of Queen Yaa Asantewaa and 15 of her closest advisors to Seychelles. She would live in exile until her death in October 1921. The siege at Fort Kumasi would also become known as Yaa Asantewaa's War, and was one of the last major wars on the continent of Africa to be led by a woman. Speaking of wars led by women, this brings me on to my next group of characters. The Dahomey Amazons. The Dahomey Amazons, or the Mino, was an all-female military regiment of the Fon people of the Kingdom of Dahomey in the present-day Republic of Benin. This army of women existed from the 17th century all the way to the end of the 19th century. While European natives referred to the women soldiers as Amazons because of their similarity to the semi-mythical Amazons of ancient Anatolia, they called themselves Aoshi, otherwise known as the Wives of Kings, or Mino, meaning our mothers, in the Fon language. They were extremely well trained and were instilled with a very aggressive attitude. They were ferocious fighters, with a reputation for decapitating soldiers in the middle of battle, as well as serving as torturers to those who were unfortunate enough to become their captives. Sedong Hong Bear, was one of the great leaders of the Mino. In 1851, she led an army of 6,000 women against the Egba fortress of Abeokuta. The Mino were armed with spears, bows and swords, but to their misfortune, the Egba had acquired European cannons to repel them. Only about 1,200 of the Mino survived the battle, of the 6,000 that went charging in. In 1890, King Behanzin used his Mino fighters alongside the male soldiers to battle the French forces during the First Franco-Dahomean War. In this war, the French army lost several battles to the female warriors due to their skill in battle. It's said that the French were unprepared for the women's agility and their sheer ruthlessness. Amarniranus. Amarniranus was one of the greatest queen mothers who ruled over the Meroitic kingdom of Kush in northeast Africa. She reigned over the kingdom between 40 BC to 10 BC. This was way back when Roman Emperor Augustus levied a tax on her people in 24 BC. Amarniranus and her son Akinidad led an army of 30,000 men to sack the Roman fort in the Egyptian city of Aswan. To add salt to the wound, they also destroyed the statues of Caesar in Elephantine. Under orders from Augustus, the Roman general Petronius retaliated, but met strong resistance from Amarniranus and her troops. After over 3 years of harsh fighting, the two parties agreed to negotiate a peace treaty. In the end, the Romans agreed to return their army to Egypt, as well as withdrawing their fort, giving the land they had taken back, and rescind the tax they had instated. The brave warrior queen Amarniranus is remembered for her loyal combat, for she would actually go into battle side by side with her own soldiers. She was blinded in one eye after she was wounded by a Roman. However, the full extent of her injuries, or the harms she had received at the hands of the Romans, has yet to be disclosed, since the account of the war, written in Meroitic script, has not yet been fully decoded. Carlotta Lukumi. Carlotta was kidnapped from her Yoruba tribe, brought in chains to Cuba as a child, and forced into slavery in the city of Matanzas, where she worked to harvest and process sugarcane under brutal conditions. Despite her misfortune, she was described as being bright, musical, determined, and smart. In 1843, she and another enslaved woman named Firmina led an organised rebellion at the sugar plantation. Firmina, though, was locked up after her plans for the rebellion were discovered. Using talking drums to secretly communicate, Carlotta and her fellow warriors freed Firmina and dozens of others, and went on to wage a well-organised armed uprising against at least 5 brutal slave plantation operations in the area. Carlotta's brave battle went on for 1 year before she was captured, tortured, and then executed by Spanish landowners. Queen Zinga Mbande. Queen Zinga Mbande was a highly intelligent and powerful 17th century ruler of the Dongo and Montambo kingdoms, which is now modern-day Angola. Around the turn of the 17th century, Nzinga fearlessly and cleverly fought for the freedom of her kingdoms against the Portuguese, who were colonizing the Central African coast at the time to control the slave trade. To build up her kingdom's military, Nzinga offered sanctuary to runaway slaves and Portuguese-trained African soldiers. She stirred up quite the rebellion amongst the people still left in Ndongo, which had then come under the rule of the Portuguese. Zinga also formed an alliance with the Dutch against the Portuguese. However, their combined forces were not enough to drive the Portuguese out. After retreating to Matambo again, Nzinga started to focus on developing the kingdom as a trading power and a gateway to the Central African interior. At the time of Nzinga's death in 1661, at the age of 81, Matambo had become a powerful kingdom that managed to resist Portuguese colonization attempts for an extended period of time. Nzinga's kingdom was only integrated into Angola in the late 19th century. As always guys, if you enjoyed this video, then do give it a thumbs up and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about these badass ladies from history, and stay tuned for more Black history. Until the next time guys.
So that's our African warriors here, female warriors. Listen to this one also. This is Queen Annie.
Queen Nanny, or Nanny of the Maroons, was a remarkable leader in Jamaican history. Born in the 17th century, into the Ashanti tribe of present-day Ghana, Queen Nanny and her 4 brothers were sold as slaves and got transported to Jamaica, where she ended up becoming the Maroon leader in the early 18th century. Queen Nanny was a brilliant military strategist, leading her people in guerrilla warfare against the British. Nanny launched her attacks on plantations and European settlements and is highly recognized for her contributions in freeing 1,000 slaves. Queen Nanny and one of her brothers, Quayo, founded a village in the Blue Mountains, on the eastern side of Jamaica, which became known as Nanny Town. Captain William Cuffy, known as Captain Sambo, is credited as having killed Nanny in 1733 during one of the series of bloody engagements of the war. She was declared a national heroine in 1975 and has her portrait on the Jamaican $500 bill.
So that's Queen Annie of Jamaica there. Let me read you some slave rebellions in the Caribbean. We have Barbados. The Bossa Revolution was in 1816, surrounded by the British military. The enslaved still fought for the freedom in the largest slave rebellion in Barbadian history. We saw the memorial in a roundabout in Bridgetown. It's a statue of a man, arm raised as he breaks the chains of bondage. So that was Bossa in Barbados. So when they tell us that the African enslaved were docile and they just accepted, no, they did not. 2, British Virgin Islands. The first large rebellion was in 1790 on the Pickering plantation. This was followed by other revolts in 1823 and 1830. In Cuba, there were many slave rebellions on the islands, and one of the most important was the Aponte Rebellion of 1810. There were further revolts in 1825 and 1843. Curaçao, the Tula slave revolt was in 1795. Curaçao has been a colony of the Netherlands since 1634. The Tula slave revolt was part of the long fights for freedom from the Dutch colonizers. In Dominica, we had the Bala slave rebellion, 1784, and was led by Maroons who made their freedom in the mountainous interior of the islands. They fought a guerrilla war against the British for the next 50 years. Grenada, we stayed in Gouyave, Gouyave, a modest fishing village during the vacation. Well, the person who would have put up this time. The village was a battleground during the Fidon Rebellion. 1796, the enslaved, led by Julian Fidon, fought against the British to end slavery on the island. National hero of the country, they fought for their freedom against the British. So it says here, 7, Guyana, the Demerara Rebellion of 1823 was led by Kwamina, who is now a national hero of the country. They fought for their freedom against the British. Haiti, the Haitians freed themselves in 1804, long before enslavement was ended, the first Caribbean country to do that. And Haiti is in the status it's in my opinion, because it has been taxed by France from time immemorial for them losing. Because when king was sugar and queen was sugar, Haiti was the golden child. After defeating the French, they then had to fight the invading British and Spanish who wanted to seize the island and reimpose slavery. The success of the Haitian Revolution inspired rebellions in the rest of the Caribbean and the Americas. A classic account of the rebellion, C.L.R. James, the Black Jacobin, Toussaint Louverture, and San Domingo Revolution. So Toussaint Louverture and Christophe Henry were friends, and they fought in that revolution. And then when everything settled, Christophe Henry took one side, and Haiti, which the whole thing was Haiti, it was divided into Santo Domingo and Haiti. It is said that in Santo Domingo, the persons who live there are more light-colored, long hair, and that kind of thing. and those in Haiti were more who looked like me. So there's a serious type of, in my opinion, kind of racial kind of thing happening in that whole space. Because you don't hear about Santo Domingo going through the kind of things that you hear Haiti going through, and all was one. All of them on the same landmass. In Jamaica, there were numerous rebellions on the islands. The most famous of these is the First Maroon War, followed by the Second Maroon War. The Maroons were runaway slaves who found freedom high in the mountains in the interior of the islands. The Maroons defeated the British Army in the First War, and the Second ended in truce, with the same Maroons sent to exile in Nova Scotia, Canada in 1796, and that of Queen Nanny was the head of that. Puerto Rico, there were many slave rebellions on the islands, and most significant was led by Marcos, Xiorro, 1821. He was enslaved on a plantation close to the capital of San Juan. Xiorro became a legend and a hero in Puerto Rico's folklore. So Marcos is the first name. St. Croix and St. Thomas, these islands were once known as the Danish West Indies. From 1672 to 1917, Denmark's Caribbean colony thrived on sugar and slavery. In 1848, a slave revolt led to the emancipation of all slaves, and in 1917, the colony was sold to the USA for 25 million in gold coins. Imagine that. St. Lucia in the Brigands War of 1795, the enslaved fought for their freedom against the British. It took the British Army 2 years to quell resistance. St. Vincent, after 4 years of fighting, the First Carib War ended in 1773 in a truce, as the British found that they could not defeat the Black Caribs, which are part of my ancestry. Led by Joseph Chatoyer, Second Carib War broke out in 1795. 14, the 14 wars, right? Slave revolt. Vesey, this was in USA. Vesey revolt, Southern Carolina, 1822. And it says that the person who would have put this together said that I have included it because due to Caribbean connection, Denmark Vesey was born enslaved in St. Thomas and later labored in the Bahamas. And in the USA, he became free and used his freedom to preach and plot. He was executed for plotting a slave rebellion in 1822. So our ancestors never give up. Let me come a little closer to home. I don't know if you all have ever heard about Prince Kofi NT, also known as in the Caribbean as William Kofi NT. He was the son of King Kari, the 10th Ashantini, or ruler of the Ashantini Empire. William was added to his name when he was baptized in England. He spent many years in Trinidad before moving to Sierra Leone and later returning to England. So King Kari, the son of Afia Kobi, ruled from the 20th of May 1867 until his abdication on the 26th of October 1874. After the 1874 war, the British imposed conditions on the Ashantis to take the sons of King Kari to be educated in British culture and civilization. After the death of one of the sons from tuberculosis, Prince Kofi was taken to Trinidad in the West Indies as a place of safe exile. When he arrived in Trinidad, he was placed under the care of James Henry Collins, the headmaster of a boys' school at Tranquility, Port of Spain. His popular name was Black Prince. It is believed he socialized with the social elite. It is recorded that he was part of the festivities when two sons of Prince of Wales, Prince Edward and George visited the island. He designed a Victorian-style signal station, the lighthouse, at the top of Fort George Hills, west of Port of Spain. He remained in Trinidad until 1886 and then moved to Sierra Leone. He was appointed as an interpreter to King Prempeh. During the days or during the king's stay in Sierra Leone on his way to exile in Seychelles. He moved to England after his relationship with the Ashanti royals turned sour following the refusal of the royals to adopt the English language, and as allegations were levied at him for not speaking the Akan language properly. He later died in England. So anytime you go up to Fort George, please go look at the lighthouse. There is a plaque or something there that tells you. So a prince from the Ashanti kingdom lived here. He went to Tranquility. He was a part of the social elite. They used to call him Black Prince. He was a part of things, they say, a member of the country club. He was lit, and he was an architect, and he would have built the lighthouse there at Fort George. So let me continue quickly, because these are things that we must know. Jonas Muhammad Bath died September 1838, was a community and religious leader during the 19th century in Trinidad. Born in West Africa, he was enslaved and transported to Trinidad in 1804 or 1805. He was able to purchase his freedom and went on to be leader of the Mandingo population in Trinidad and was described as chief priest and patriarch of the entire Muslim population of the colony. Bath petitioned the English government or the British government, same thing, to repatriate the Mandingo community to Africa in 1833 and 1838. Both petitions were rejected. Bath was born in West Africa, probably the region between the Senegal and Gambia rivers, a region then known as Senegambia. He was most likely a Mande speaker and may have been Susu. He was literate in Arabic and reportedly educated in Islamic law, which indicated that he came from an elite family. Bath said he was the Sultan of Ulialihad Alamant and a prince by birth. Bath was captured by non-Muslim slave traders and transported to Trinidad in 1804 to 1805, just before the 1807 abolition of the slave trade. Instead of being sold to a plantation, Bath was purchased by the government or put to work on the construction of Fort George, which was being constructed on the orders of the British government, Thomas Hislop. Hislop was concerned that the French would attack Trinidad and wanted a fort built quickly. Upon discovering that Bath was a person of some status, Hislop appointed him foreman of the slave gangs working to build the fort. In 1812, Bath had purchased his freedom and was recognized as the leader of and magistrate of the community of African Muslims. Historian Carl Campbell described him as chief priest and magistrate of the Mandingo community, and quotes contemporary sources who call Bath the chief priest and matriarch of the African Muslim community in Trinidad. In the Caribbean, the term Mandingo was used fairly broadly, not merely for Mandinga people, but for anyone from the Senegambia region, especially Muslims. Because the demand for public work was so high and the supply for labor limited, Bath was unable to buy his freedom directly. Instead, he was required to purchase another enslaved person at a cost of $500 and turn them over to the government as a replacement for his own labor. The community went on to purchase the freedom of the enslaved Mandingo people. Historian Bridget Brereton estimated that they purchased the freedom of between 50 to 70 enslaved people, which she called a remarkable achievement, given that the price of slave was high in Trinidad. Mohammed Medjou CC, another member of the community, reported that the cost of freeing enslaved people ranged between $300 to $700 per person. By the time slavery was abolished in 1834, the free Mandingo community consisted of 140 people, and according to Bath, Few, if any, of those were still enslaved. From at least 1812, Bart was treated as a magistrate with authority over the Mandingo community. Henry Fuller, the Attorney General of Trinidad from 1812 to 1832, allowed Bart to adjudicate over disputes amongst members of the community and often had Bart countersign their statements since they would make official statements in Arabic and oaths using the Quran. In 1833, Bart petitioned the British government to assist the community to return to Africa. Although the slave trade had been abolished, slavery was still legal. Bart requested assistance from the British Navy to return home safely. The petition was rejected, and in 1838, Bart petitioned the colonial secretary to help them return to Africa, noting that their knowledge of English and loyal to the British made them ideal agents to bring British culture and civilization to Africa. Although the government of Trinidad and Tobago met with Bart to discuss the petition, it was ultimately rejected. Bart died in September 1838 and was succeeded by Mohammed Madu Maguina as matriarch of the Mandingo community. If you know anything about Bart Place in Port of Spain, it was named after Jonas Bart. They also said that he bought a lot of land up in Manzalin, up in Kokal, and that is where they went when the slaves were free and slave person was free. They said when any ship came in or anything, he would go and he would give the Muslim greeting. I think it's Assalamu alaikum. And once he's a Muslim and you responded like that, then he bought your freedom. So we have these things happening in our country, even during enslavement. So African people were always industrious, they were knowledgeable, they were smart, they were elites, they came from kings and queens, they commanded respect. You heard Jonas Bart was the magistrate of the peoples, he was in charge of the Mandingo community and all that. So let us do not get caught up with people when they want to tell us about our history and they know nothing about our history, and that we don't fall for foolishness. We don't fall for foolishness and make people tell us that we're lazy. We don't like to work. We don't own nothing. We come from nothing. That is a lie. So let me go to the Pan-African movement quickly. All that is a part of our history. The Pan-African movement, and I went through from the African female warriors, actually in Africa, and I come down to the Caribbean. So I'm in Trinidad with Jonas Bart. And now the Pan-African movement, which seeks to unify people of African descent, was shaped by several key figures. Henry Sylvester Williams, a Trinidadian barrister, organized the first Pan-African conference in 1900s in London. W.E.B. Du Bois, an African-American activist, organized subsequent Pan-African congresses to further the movement. Other significant figures include George Padmore, another Trinidadian journalist and activist, and Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, who played crucial roles in organizing and promoting Pan-African ideas. And George Padmore, I think it was, he would have worked with Kwame Nkrumah. I think he was a legal person there in Africa, so we have been there, we have been doing it. Henry Sylvester Williams, as we said before, organized the first Pan-African conference in 1900, marking a crucial step in the movement's formalization. Again, W.E.B. Du Bois was a Pan-Africanist, but American. He continued the movement between the world wars. George Padmore, again, another key figure, I just spoke about him, particularly in Congress in Manchester in 1945, and was a close advisor. George Padmore was a close advisor to Kwame Nkrumah. Kwame Nkrumah was the first president of Ghana. Nkrumah championed Pan-Africanism and played a significant role in supporting liberation struggles across the continent. And then we have Marcus Garvey. Though he never visited Africa, Garvey's Back to Africa movement and his organization, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, influenced Pan-African thought. I thought it was important on the crust for the whatever you call it, just before emancipation, the celebration itself, the 1st of August, that I bring these information to you for you to understand and have even more pride in our Africanness, in our Blackness, our consciousness. And it doesn't mean that if you are Black conscious and you are African and you're proud to be African, that you cannot like and support somebody of another race. It will not take away from your Blackness or your Africanness or your support for African people. Because if you love yourself as a person of African descent, then you can like any other race, any person from another race, because of the fact when you meet and treat with them, you speak to them as an equal. You stand with them as an equal. You don't have no insecurity and no head bow. Yeah? So I say all this to say we are strong people, we are resilient people, we have a beautiful, rich history. Some of it was hidden from us, but it is there. Seek the knowledge, go research, find it, and understand what has happened, understand the truth. Stand proud in your Blackness, stand proud in your Africanness. That does not mean that you are racist. And it doesn't mean if you support another ethnic group that somehow that you are leaving your ethnic group behind. That will only happen if you're not proud of yourself. If you don't stand when you stand with another ethnic group, you don't stand shoulder to shoulder with them. If you go to them feeling insecure, then you have a problem. Then you will be used. Then you will be bamboozled. Then you could be fooled. Then you could be mama guy. Yeah? So know yourself, know your history, and understand your history. And I want to end by saying again, despite all what they say, the opposition leader, the Honorable Penelope Beckles, I, Jennifer Frederick, want to see her do well. Because if she does well, the PNM does well, the country does well, all of us does well. If she fails, the country fails, the PNM fails, she fails, everything will fail. And there's a reason why I'm saying this as I end, because we're looking at strength. I just want to read this quickly. This here, Lord Father, this is too fine for me to read, so I don't know if I could read it from there. Let me just make a check quick. Director, if you're listening to me, I can't read that thing. That thing is too fine. That thing is too fine. So what I would do, just give me a minute, Julia. That thing is really fine. It's really, really, really fine. Let me see if I can get it here. If I can read it from here, I would do that. Just give me a minute. Wow. Okay. So it's not here. Let me look somewhere else. Let me see if I find it here. It's a letter of concern, and we are all concerned because we want the PNM to do well, because we're in a state and a place now where, my goodness, things are helter-skelter. This is a letter that came from the mayor of Port of Spain, and he wrote to the political leader, and I want her to hear, I want her to listen, I want her to treat and deal. Director, we're removing this thing here now. Right. Direct, great, thank you. I say these things not to bring down the opposition leader. She has a fight and a challenge on her hand being in opposition. And because there's already a perception of her performance, nothing to do with us, she has been in different ministries, held different portfolios. And if you ask anybody about her, they would basically say she's just quiet. They don't know much about her, they don't know what she has done, anything like that. I know you're the opposition leader, so and you're in opposition, it puts this spotlight on you. It's like a deer headlights. And if you can't step up to the plate in your delivery is what is the issue, along with some of your decision making. But your delivery. So if you can get somebody, she speaks as though she reads from a paper. And we're talking about strength, because we come, I just show you the woman we came from, I show you the shoulders we came from, These women were strong women, who stood up for battle, They didn't cower in a corner, So these things are things people need to take seriously and not look at it as if I hate the opposition leader. I can't hate, I don't know her like that to hate her. Hating her is hating myself, and I don't hate myself. I have issues with some of the decisions that, in fact, all of her decisions that she would have made with regards to her executive, with regards to the other issues. And her delivery is one that is left wanting. She sounds as though she's just reading from a paper, no intonation, nothing. You have to bring the words alive. Words are just words on a paper. It means nothing. For instance, I'll give you a quick thing before I end here. The word yes, Y-E-S, yes. On paper, it is just that. But based on my intonation, I can make that yes 3 different things, either a statement, a question, or an exclamation. For instance, if I was saying yes, just the word yes as a statement, I would say yes. Anybody listening will say she's making a statement, not a yes. If it is a question, I can make that yes into a question. Yes, 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 you asking. If it's exclamation, yes, you can see. So the point I'm making, you have to make the words come alive. Your intonation, your expression, your body language, because we communicate to people non-verbally also. If you come in and you're down like this, it speaks to people that, hey, something is wrong, it's not strong, it's not. And when you speak the words, if you speak it with no intonation and nothing behind it, then we have the words with the image that we see in. So the opposition leader needs to understand that their non-verbal communication, your body can be a form of communication. Your facial expression could also be a form of communication. And if what we see first is your body and your face, your expression before you start to speak, we can get vibes from that. And if it's low energy vibes, no confident vibe, it transmits into when you start to speak. Those are the things I'm speaking about. I'm into drama. I'm a dance and dance education teacher. I am involved in drama. I, as a dance and dance education teacher, we use the body to communicate. In drama, we use the words on the paper to communicate. We make the words come to life with expression on the face, the mouth, the eyes, the hands, the whole body. Yeah? And somebody needs to teach our opposition leader these things. If she can learn it, I say again, it's victory to us. If she cannot learn it, I am afraid people continue to criticize, and they would be just in the criticism, the constructive criticism. And we need the PNM to be in ripping form. As it is now, people are speaking about weak in opposition forever and all that. We ain't want that. Talk about 3 months in the game. Yeah. So let me move forward in positivity. It has to start with the leader. Once she can get that energy up there, everything else will fall into place. And once she can start to make the correct decisions in the interest of the People's National Movement, to bring the young people in, Because surely who she put there as deputy political leaders, two of them can bring no young people in. And then Mr. Sanjay Budu just come in the scene. He wasn't good enough for them in the internal election. When he went up, he's a young newbie on the scene. It's good to see a young person, but what is his experience there also? Young and experienced will be nice also. But that is what we have. So let us see who. I spoke to a young person who is 39 years old, who, of course, his peers are around his age. And they're not in twos. They say, oh God, that the only people that nobody else in the PNM, them could put the boy a young person, boy. They jump up with his premise, them go put on member, boy, it ain't nobody young, boy. Them can't attract nobody. They are those are the conversation, the 18-year-old to 40, 45-year-olds are happening. That is the voter group that you want to have, The elders and them getting frustrated, not them in saying they're voting, and the under 18 can't vote. So if you can capture the 18 to 45-year-old or close to 50, because they ain't seen nothing new and exciting, who going to vote for PNN? Louis Beery, right? So let me call all here. What I did, people, I write down the names that I could remember from Facebook, so I could talk to people. So I look in here now, I see Sedena, Althea, Patty, Indra, Pamela, Benny Q, Nicole, Nayabo. I'm seeing those names there. Come, put it up, put it up, put it up. I see somebody talking about Eric. Eric must be here jamming somebody. I don't know. Pamela. People put up the names. Annette. You know, a lot. What let me see? Constance, Miguel Constance. Constance, I send you a message. I expect to see you, right? So if I see names coming up here, let me call some names I have from the Facebook peoples. I see Mr. David, I see Mr. Gibson. What happened? No, they just left me. So let me call some names that I remember here. So I don't know if they did today, but I called them no business. I shouting them up. So Margaret Davison, Yvette, Angela Rodriguez Lacroix, Ginger, Lorna Ortega Manette, Sarah, Rick, Emmeline, Christopher, Erica, Keith, Charles, Anne, Ophelia, Andrew, Alison, Helen Russell House Pleasantville, Roxanne, Melka, Bolty, Hadara, Ruthvin, Dr. Lloyd Straker, Lucy, Cheryl, Alison, German Hustlers, Francia, E.A. Shorty, Bernadine Andel de Jocelyn, Augustus K2, Victoria from up in Samoa. Strength and blessings, you darling, and your whole friend who I meet in Yips, I guess she named that whole crew and band too. That is all I could remember for now. Rockman, Anne Marie, I want to thank you all so much. Let me see, Alison, and the people, I want to thank you all. Have a safe Emancipation Day on Friday. I ain't think I going out there. I ain't think I doing nothing tomorrow. I ain't think I doing nothing Friday, so they will see me unless something I pop up and they go come in. In the absence of that, people, hi Raymond. In the absence of that, I want to wish you all a blessed African Emancipation Day. It is not Emancipation Day, it is African Emancipation Day. Go out in your numbers and support. Go out there in your colors, in your crew. Love it. I do my part. I think I just feeling tired. I want to just go and sleep. I will take it in, and I know that Fearless Warrior will be carrying it. So there's no sense two of us on the same platform, and I carrying it and he carrying it. So if he's carrying it, I good with that. I will watch it with you all and enjoy it. Patty, everybody, love you all. I want to end with some Miss Ella. You can't do emancipation, nothing, and you don't have Miss Ella, Mama Ella. So people, see you all on Monday. Go and I come with something for something with the girl Jensen, Sister Jenny, Auntie Jenny. And if you want to get formalism, Miss Jennifer, Patrick, another edition of the Talk thing. And because Ella's so nice, Mama's so nice, I go play too. So they could stay and listen to it. Listen to the vibes, listen to the drum, listen to the energy. Get that resurgence, that that connection to mother. When all they get a chance, take off all their shoes and go and stand up on the earth in your yard. I hope you still have an area that you can just stand up and feel mama under your foot. Stand up in the elements and enjoy the wonder that is this earth that we live on. So people, I love you all. Let me take all of it some Ella. Mama Ella.
Baba deo, oguye kudeye baba wo. Baba deo, oguye kudeye baba. Baba deo, oguye kudeye baba wo. Ogun baba deo, oguye kudeye baba. Baba deo, oguye kudeye baba. Baba deo, oguye kudeye baba. Baba Abalubaye, aye, gurumba shuba, abalubaye, aye, gurumba shuba, abalubaye.